In August of 1855, John D. Rockefeller decided to look for a job in Cleveland. But there was a problem. 3 problems, actually. Problem number 1 is Rockefeller was only 16 years old and nobody wanted to hire a boy of his age at this time. Problem number 2 Rockefeller had to face is he just dropped out of high school 3 months earlier, and that probably said something about him to a potential employer. And problem number 3, John didn't want to work for a small business. So he pulled out the city's directory and started identifying big and reputable companies with high credit ratings. He made a list of these big companies, banks, railroads, and wholesale merchants and started approaching them. Whenever he got to any of these big businesses, John asked for the most senior person in the company. Again, this was crazy for a 16-year-old boy, but John Rockefeller believed he was far older than his age. Whenever John was told that the top man wasn't available to speak with a kid, he simply said, "I understand bookkeeping and I'd like to get to work." Well, needless to say, everyone rejected him. But he was too stubborn. He would wake up early in the morning and set out every 8 a.m. to go to companies and knock on doors all day, every day, 6 days a week. Every company he visited in Cleveland was telling him no. But he would simply go to the next company on his list after he got rejected from one. And when he had visited and got rejected by all the companies on his list, guess what Rockefeller did? He started all over again and went back to those earlier companies that had rejected him, even visiting some of them 3 times. "I know bookkeeping and I need to work. I know bookkeeping and I need to work. I know bookkeeping and I need a work." John would repeat again and again. Imagine how crazy that was, but it worked. On the morning of September 26, 1855, Rockefeller walked into the office of Hewitt & Tuttle, a commission merchant in Cleveland. He was interviewed, and this time around he got a job. The story I told you is on page 44 of Titan, the biography of John D. Rockefeller, published in 1998 by Ron Chernow, and is just one of the many stories about Rockefeller's ability to endure rejections all through his years in business. Now, this leads me to the first lesson I learned from John D. Rockefeller's biography. Persistence is more important to success than intelligence. You see, John D. Rockefeller did so poorly in school that many people in his school perceived him to be a dim-witted dolt who would never rise in the world. For example, on page 34 of the same biography, one of Rockefeller's home tutors, Susan Lamonte, was quoted as saying, "I have no recollection of John excelling at anything. There was nothing about him to make anybody pay special attention to him or speculate about his future." While there was nothing special about Rockefeller's intelligence, there's something really special about his ability to get what he wanted. He was a stubborn human being. As you can see in the above story, first, Rockefeller would choose the most rewarding battle, and second, he would fight that battle with the last drop of blood in his veins. Listen to this. More than anything else, your ability to persist in the face of obstacles and rejections is what determines how much success you'll have in life. If after 3 or 5 rejections you give up on your dream, it doesn't matter if your IQ is 180, you won't succeed in life. If after 3 or 5 obstacles you start complaining and says, "Oh, it's not going to work," well, it doesn't matter if you're smarter than Albert Einstein, you wouldn't achieve anything in life. Success in life goes to the stubborn ones, the rebels, the ones who don't know how to stop fighting. In his 1844 book, The Luck of Barry Lyndon, William Makepeace wrote, and I quote, "Let the man who has to make his fortune in life remember this maxim: attacking is his only secret. Dare and the world will always yield, or if it beats you sometimes, dare again and it will succumb." The 30th U.S. President, Calvin Coolidge, said nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, "Press on," has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. Use negative events for inspiration. Reading through Rockefeller's biography, What you'll notice is that from his childhood, John D. Rockefeller was a determined, focused, and sometimes a desperate human being. But you won't know the reason for this desperation until you know about John's father, William Rockefeller Sr. Now, William was the definition of a bad father. He was irresponsible, dubious, and unfaithful. For example, in 1853, William took his wife and children by train to a town in Ohio called Strongsville. He dumped all of his family with his sister and brother-in-law, Sarah Ann and William Humiston, and the 6 Rockefellers then started living in a small house with their host, while William went away with another woman. Yeah, you heard me correctly. William dumped his family with his sister and went away with a new woman he just met. What made this attitude even worse was the fact that Rockefeller Sr. had a lot of money at this time. In fact, rumor had it that he was so rich that he gave loans to a lot of people, but his children and wife were living in poverty. Rockefeller Sr. had a gold watch, a diamond ring, 3 fine gowns, and a rich wardrobe, but his family couldn't even live comfortably. Adding to his terrible life was the fact that William Rockefeller was a con man. For example, after he dumped his family and went away with another woman, someone from his former town saw him in a hotel pretending to be a medical doctor. William Rockefeller was defrauding people by asking them to pay $25 for the medicine that can cure cancer, even though he was never a doctor. Full details about the manipulative, abusive, and crazy lifestyle of William Rockefeller could be found on pages 37 to 42 of the biography I told you about earlier. But you get the idea of the kind of man he was. As a boy, the manipulative, dubious, and irresponsible attitudes of his father made a negative impression on John D. Rockefeller. Hence, he was determined to be independent of his father and make his own money as fast as possible. His biographer wrote, his anxiety is that his flight from his distressing family life was still tenuous, and failure at work would mean reverting to reliance on his father. So this is what I learned from this part of the story. In life, what happens to us isn't as important as how we interpret it. For example, someone born to a poor parent can say, "Oh, I have no chance in life because my parents are poor." And at the same time, another person born by the same parent could say, "I need to understand how money works, work hard and make a lot of money because I have nobody to depend on." Someone could live all his life in depression because his teacher told him that he could never amount to anything. Yet another person in the same situation will suddenly get inspiration to prove the teacher wrong.
I told everybody at 10 years old I was going to be on TV. I had a little problem when I said that. I had a severe stuttering problem. So when I wrote on that paper, the assignment was write on a piece of paper what you want to be when you grow up. I'm 10. I wrote I want to be on TV. Teacher called me to the front of the class. I thought I'm going to get me a gold star. I can't tell you how wrong I was. She called me up there to humiliate me. And she just said, "Why would you write something like this on your paper?" And I'm standing there. I'm trying to get out. She said, "Who in this school ever been on TV? Who in your family ever been on TV?" She said, "Look at you standing there. You can't even talk. How they gonna put somebody like you on TV?" So every Christmas, I send her a flat screen TV.
By deriving inspiration from the negative events in your life, you can turn what is supposed to destroy you into what makes you successful. Bet on the future. Today, we all see oil and gas as one of the most important and most lucrative industries in the world's economy. What we don't know, however, was that back in the 1860s, most people thought oil was just a transient phenomenon that will soon vanish. By then, nobody knew how much oil we have under the soil and whether or not it would all dry off next year. Nobody knew whether the usefulness of oil would only be for a few machines, and nobody knew if oil would be useful in the next 5 years. So think about this. Today, 66% of petroleum in the US is used for transportation, while 28% is used for industries. Okay, so go back to 1860 and you'll see this, and steam trains, which mostly use coal as fuel. There were few industries and generally few use for oil compared to what we had today. And don't forget, nobody knew how much oil we have under the soil. Yet John D. Rockefeller bet all his life on oil. He invested all his money, borrowed every penny he could find, and spent every second of the day thinking about oil. Now, this is what we have to understand. Most industrialists and investors who owned oil wells and refineries in the 1860s assumed that they were in the business of oil to cash out because the oil could dry off or become useless at any time. With this mindset, they were half-hearted about the business of oil, while Rockefeller was all in. For example, there's an account on page 86 of his biography where one of his business partners, Maurice Clark, said, "We have been asking too many loans in order to extend this oil business." Rockefeller's response to him was that they need to borrow more. He then complained that Clark was thinking like a gambler and dissolved his partnership with him. The lesson here is simple. Your ability to see the future before everyone else is oftentimes the source of great wealth. For example, Bill Gates could see the future of software in 1975 long before that word was ever heard by most people, and that of the internet by 1995.
Succinctly, what it is that you did better and first that put you where you are today. What was the core of this? What was the seed? What is the essence of Microsoft? When and how did that happen?
Okay. I think there's a lot of elements that go into it. A vision of what software could do.
What was the vision? What was your vision?
Well, a computer on every desk and in every home.
Right.
Jeff Bezos could see the future of e-commerce in 1994, long before most people in the world heard that word.
Hi there, who are you?
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Where did you get an idea for Amazon.com?
Well, 3 years ago, I was in New York City working for a quantitative hedge fund when I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth. And I picked books as the first best product to sell online, after making a list of like 20 different products that you might be able to sell. And books were great as the first best, because books are incredibly unusual in one respect.
See, your ability to see what other people don't see is very important if you want to make a lot of money. However, I need to drop a word of warning here. You see, so many Ponzi schemes are all around us today, pretending to be the future of everything. The question you have to ask yourself is, what real value is this new invention or technology bringing to humankind? Again, here are the 3 lessons I learned from Rockefeller's biography. 1. Persistence is more important than intelligence. Your ability to hear no 100 times and still keep on looking for a yes is probably the single most important attribute that would determine your success in life. 2. Use negative events as inspiration instead of allowing them to destroy you. And 3. Bet on the future, but don't do it as a gambler. Thanks for watching.